Kelly Schwartz is a registered psychologist and associate professor of school and applied child psychology at the University of Calgary as director of the Social Development Research Team, SDRT. His research explores social and emotional development in children and their families, with particular focus on the strengths that contribute to positive youth development, mental health, and resiliency. Take it away.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Andy. I absolutely know how it feels to be the dessert item on a keg menu, because we have eaten our fill today. And I've just thoroughly enjoyed this. Monique and I are, she's a psychiatrist, I'm a psychologist, and we do not have the luxury of these conversations. So this has been an absolute treat to be invited to be here and to be part of this. I bring greetings from our Premier, Danielle Smith. You guys think I'm joking, but I am joking. She provided the transportation for us to attend. It was a one-way ticket, and no need for us to return. Thank you. This is the title. I'm so thankful to Cynthia for her work. Can we give her a little hand for all the technical and other pieces? I am one of those guys that came up to her an hour and a half ago and said, my presentation is totally different than the one I sent to you. This was the title that I sent to her. This was the one that I want to speak on today, which is Damn You, Andy, and HxCanada for ruining my night's sleep. These are random thoughts on statements of faith, social justice creeds, and moral injury from a sleep-deprived psychologist. And I want you to notice that is a screenshot of the time that I started working on this at 5:03 a.m. this morning, thanks to... it was just enriching to the discussion we had. Some of us met yesterday as campus leaders to talk through things, and that's why I totally deconstructed my talk, and I've landed on this. So this is what you're getting at 4:40 on a Friday, on a Monday afternoon. I thought it'd be interesting to just give you the briefest of history. Context is so important, and some of you have been really vulnerable in sharing kind of where you've come from and how you got to where you were. So I've been in the field of psychology for over 30 years. Started off in the early 90s as a school psychologist with Calgary Catholic School Division in Calgary. Moved on to an assistant professor position at a Christian university called Ambrose University in Calgary. I was there for about 12 years. Then moved to a position at the University of Calgary where I directed a clinic on campus for children and youth with learning, behavioral, and cognitive difficulties. So I directed that clinic. And then in 2015, I became, and I put it in air quotes all the time, a regular professor, and have been engaged in that. But every one of these stages represented somewhat of a tipping point for me. 1995, when I was enjoying my career as a school psychologist, the Alberta government introduced what we affectionately called coding for cash, where we were assessing kids to meet a criteria that then opened up an envelope of funding for those children within the classrooms. From a clinical perspective, that was completely detestable to me, and so I left that profession. Went to Ambrose University. Again, landed at what I thought was a really safe spot, directed a behavioral science program. All things were good until about 2006 when they wanted me to sign a statement of faith, which I had to decide between Jesus and beer. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I'm making light of it, but it was, and I coexisted there for another 2 years afterwards, but I just could not sign that statement for various reasons. So I left in 2008 to join the University of Calgary, where I'd done my studies before it was returning home for me, fully expecting to be entering an atmosphere and a context of open dialogue and discussion. And great, all the things that we are about with Heterodox, only to be deeply disappointed. Just like Rob, who just spoke to you, I'm a social scientist and a psychologist in a faculty of education. If you ever want to know what it feels like to be alone on a campus, I will invite you to join me in that experience, because we're really riding a picket fence with sharp points when it comes to being, and this is what my topic is going to be about today, is talking about what it means to ride, kind of these two different sides of that fence. And again, I felt like in 2011 to 13 is when this telos started to shift. And again, I even sensed this before John Haidt published his paper on that, choosing between truth or social justice. I was starting to feel that in the context of my work and my job at the University of Calgary at that time. Now, I want to just share with you, and it's been so good. The good thing is that I don't need to dwell on this point, because some of you have made attempts to share and define and describe what we think is meant by some descriptions of equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. And again, I'm sharing with you things that you can find on our University of Calgary website, so there's nothing here that's covered by disclosure. But when I think about my role and my work at the University of Calgary, I'm considerate of the fact that in some cases, many of the things that we are being asked to consider and do as faculty members, on paper or on websites, look very noble and look very doable. And in fact, when I look at the definitions that they provide for us on each of these areas, I can find places of agreement within these. I really can. I can find places and spaces where I can see both my teaching practice, my clinical philosophy, my views towards student engagement can all find a place within these pieces. But as a professional who is, as a psychologist working in a program that's about training psychologists, like that is what's coming out of the end of the tube for us, is that we are training our graduates to be psychologists. And it's been interesting for me and for Monique and I, a psychiatrist, and myself, a psychologist, to sit back and listen to the dialogue here today. We will leave our cards up here, and we have open appointments. We will make space for you whenever you need to talk. I'm $2.50 an hour. I don't know what Monique is. But we also, and I'll speak for myself here and for Rob, who just spoke to, we have those principles within our university environment, but then as practicing psychologists, we also have to adhere to a code of ethic that is really a driving force for us. And so I'm just giving you the briefest of overview of the 4 principles of our code of ethic: respect for dignity of persons, responsible caring, integrity of relationships, and responsibility to society. And these are not just credos. In fact, these code of ethics are also aligned with a code of conduct. Code of ethics we can't be punished for, can't be necessarily held accountable to, but the code of conduct that follows these, we absolutely can be sanctioned, we can be taken to task for if we step. So we live in this world where we work in an institution that has these mandates for these principles. And then we also live in a professional world that has sanctionable, correctionable mandates that we have to follow as well. So, and I want to make sure that you know that I acknowledge all the time. In fact, I do this with even clients that I work with, families, that we are far from a perfect profession in the sense that we don't have culturally informed treatment models. In our classes and courses, we are asked to systematically, integrate social justice or EDEIA content into our syllabi, and it looks clunky and reads clunky in some cases. When we look at student considerations, we know that when they come into our classrooms and into our programs, that we are lacking in diversity amongst our faculty and amongst our trainees. We know that the pipeline for groups that we wish were in our programs, they're underrepresented, not only by gender and race, but also by language, culture, and disability. And we are sensitive to that. I live and work in a program that is designed to work and support and remediate children, youth, and adults that have learning, cognitive, social, emotional difficulties, and so we feel that tension. Our university programs at U of C, other professional programs, and I'll speak only for U of C. I'll bring our world right down to that. I know that other programs are feeling this tension too. I pulled this off the website at 6:08 this morning from the social work website, where they have a statement that represents how they are, conceiving of, and kind of their promissory note to their constituents that they are doing what they can to, support EDI, decolonization, anti-oppression within their groups. I don't know if Monique knows this. I pulled this off the Faculty of Medicine's website. We have a Precision, Equity, and Social Justice Office. I don't know what precision equity is, but we have an office. We have an office for this. Thank you. So we are working. You can tell that our other professional programs, like my own, are working hard to try and bring in this mandate to be very inclusive, to be very actionable in these EDI areas. But we're also up against a professional practice and platform and training regimen that also has its own standards and processes. So my sole point that I'll leave you with today is that, and I'll again poke it at my own area. Like I said, I'm part of an educational psychology program in the Faculty of Education, Workland School of Education at the U of C. And don't worry, I didn't intend for you to read this fine print, but the counseling psychology program, our sister program, did take time in 2016 and then a revision in 2021 to think through, how they would enact and act in a social justice framework. This is 670 plus words that I guarantee you would have been blood, sweat, and tears in those program meetings to come up with the language that led to this understanding. We tried to do it in 2016. We couldn't even come up with a definition of what school psychology was on our side. So we quickly abandoned thinking we could come up with any sort of statement about this. Here's my whole point in my talk with you today was, at this time of year, it happens every year, we have a November 1st application date for students to come into our programs. So September and October, I'm constantly getting emails and calls from prospective students saying, hey, I think your research is great, and I think you're great, and I really want to work with you, and all sorts of flowery statements. And I follow up with most of these. I want to show you an exchange in the close of our day here with a conversation I literally had just last week with a student who sent me an email, all the congratulatory notes at the beginning. And then I said, hey, let's do a Zoom call. I'd love to meet with you. It looks like it looks like we might have some connection in some of our research. And as I connected with this student, she's the one that actually pointed me to this social justice statement on our own website for our own programs that I had not seen or considered for the last, half dozen years. And she asked me really good questions. So I'm pulling out kind of a statement that is about the program, that it's about investigating and dismantling ideologies and structures of inequities related to age, race, gender, ethnicity, goes on and on. So she says, Dr. Schwartz, I'd like you to think about this. And she asked me these questions. She goes, do I have to agree with and act on all of the statements to be accepted into the program? And to the point where, and this was on a Friday afternoon at about 2:30, she got me at the wrong time because I launched into this whole kitschy statement where I say, I'm against anything that's against anything. Like, I'm against anything because I want to be for something. I want to be promotive of something. I want to be developing something. So this poor student got the best and the worst of me because I went off on this tangent, and I'm surprised she still stayed on the call with me. She picks up another part of this social justice statement, and again, where it's talking about social justice efforts can be demonstrated in several ways, including a focus on, and then it goes through a list of topics that can be studied within, again, this paradigm of social justice. And it goes through, underrepresented communities, Indigenous research paradigms, those that are systemically oppressed. And she asks me a question, again, where she says, what if I want to research areas that might challenge those listed here? To which I wanted to reach through the screen and embrace her, because I was just like, yeah, this is exactly the questions that I have, as a 30-year researcher and social scientist, where I want to ask those same questions of these research topics. And you're naively doing it, and I really appreciate that. But I also felt really bad for her because I was like, she thinks she has to fit into these categories of study and research, when in fact, I want her to know that the field is wide open. That open inquiry experience is wide open. The last one I'll point out is that there's a section within that social justice statement that again is connected very heavily to decolonization and anti-colonialism and that experience within that. So she asks me another great question. She's like, how will I accomplish meeting all of these requirements in 2 years? To which point I just looked at her and said, we don't expect that. But I can see how her reading this, she's going, I have to not only meet all of my clinical and academic requirements, but I have to meet all these requirements as well. The last question that she asked that hit me really hard. She said, how will this help me be a better psychologist in my rural community? She was coming from a northern Alberta community. She wanted to come to school at the U of C, learn how to be a good counseling psychologist, and then return to her community. And in my head, I'm going, you're right. Like, how is all of these other things going to help her find trust and social connection and working alliance with the people in her community? So again, all I'm left with is many lingering questions from this whole experience, which I guess is maybe the best way to end our day. Is that I think I really hold tightly to that third parameter on our. Which is being intellectually humble and not holding so tightly to the things that we might feel very passionately about, because I have all of these questions. Like, maybe I do work with first responders who respond to horrific events and experiences, and they experience a term what's called moral injury, where the things that they experience really challenge their views of humanity and really affect their soul experiences. And I'm wondering, am I just that 30-plus-year-old veteran who's just so wounded by these experiences that I can't even, formulate a response to a student who's asking about our program? But I leave us with these questions because, and that last one is the really pertinent one for me, is what is my responsibility in creating competent and ethical psychologists? And I'm also supposed to make them social justice warriors. Like, it really puts in tension what I think my role is and what the university thinks my role is, and where I stand in that. So I really appreciate you taking the time to listen, and I welcome your thoughts or comments. Thank you, Andy.
So we probably have time for one question.
Where's the bar? Probably. Yeah.
Maybe not just the question, but what you just found, I think we found as well at SFU. And the point is that the words have value. whatever we
Right.
point, whatever we publish on our website, whatever research policies that the universities come up with, they are so important.
They are.
Because they all not only perceived value, but they also actually indeed signal people who we're looking for. And as
Right.
one of the members of my department at SFU mentioned, and she said it actually to the entire faculty meeting, she said, yes, we put land acknowledgement on the job ads. Yes, we put these EDI requirements because we want to signal that only people with right ideas are welcome here.
Yes.
So yes, it has a clear message.
It
This
does.
is what they want, so that is why it's very important to fight those things in the first place.
And no matter how much I don't read those messages, students are reading them. And we have to come to terms with how we will respond to that. And that's, her questions were just so on point and just took me off guard that way. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I think we better wrap up there.
Thank you.
So thank
Thank
you.
you, Andy.
Thank you. Okay.